Hi everybody, welcome to Bookies. I'm Bear. Today we're going to talk about My Friends by Fredrik Bachman. And you can probably guess what the subject matter of the novel is. Yeah, it's friends. And the great thing about friends is that you get to choose your friends, unlike family. And sometimes your friends choose you, but either way, if you reach out to that individual with unconditional love, they're yours for life. Before we get into the review, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Once this channel gets monetized, we're going to give 100% of the proceeds to local libraries and literacy programs, and just to encourage our shared joy of reading with others. And if you like that idea, please subscribe. All right, so the business part being done, let's talk about the book. My Friends is an excellent novel. It was published in May 2025, and I think it's one of the best novels I've read all year. Frankly, the best novel I've read all year is Anxious People by the same author, Fredrik Bachman. And I think that it's because this kind of strange, introverted Swedish author really understands the human soul. And Bachman is right in his wheelhouse with this novel because that's what this novel is about. It's about those intangible things in the human soul that make us just glory and blossom as people. And I think it's these intangibles that are really the truly important things in life. It's not the chatter of politicians that, maybe want you to compromise your morality for some perceived economic good, or the chatter of CEOs from multinational corporations that are really just trying to enrich themselves further. There's a lot of things like that that can cause us to despair, but I'm optimistic, and because in the world, I see a lot more grounds for hope. And I think Bachman is one of those reasons. I think it's time, honestly, that we allow the chatter of the CEOs and the politicians to die down a little bit so we can let the artists speak. One of the great things about My Friends is as I was reading it, I was identifying with the characters in the novel. And when you can do that, it's like the author is not just telling you a story that's outside of you, he's retelling you your own story that you can identify with. In this particular novel, Bachman is giving you characters that are believable. And they're believable even if you don't have a common experience with these characters. You can still identify with them, and that is something that I think is rather unique to Bachman. My Friends begins with the sale of a world-famous painting by the painter Sejat, and that painting is sold at auction. And most people, when they look at the painting at first blush, they see a seascape. But if you look real close, there's a pier, and at the end of that pier are three individuals facing out to the sea. And our protagonist, Luisa, also an artist, she wants to understand who those people are in the painting. Or were they real people? And if they were, what did they mean to the artist? Luisa comes to understand that they weren't just three random people sitting at the end of the pier. They were the artist's best friends. So let's go ahead and briefly talk about the friends. First, there's Joar, who I found to be the most interesting character in the novel. Joar is a kid that's abused at home, physically abused at home by his father. And he has this sense that there must be justice in the world. And his form of bringing justice in the world is by his fists. So he gets in fights a lot. And he's got the scars on his knuckles to prove his efforts. But what's great about Joar is he fervently wants his friend, the artist, to become famous. And in his simplistic worldview, it's not fame for the sake of being famous. He wants him to become famous so he can become rich, because in his view, the rich don't have any problems. They never suffer want or loss. And then there's the friend Ted, and Ted's this quiet, bookish, gay kid who can't seem to find his place in the world. And it's that sense of loss and being misplaced is compounded because he's mourning the death of his father, who he dearly loved. Next is Allie, the daughter of a man who never stays in place for very long. Allie's essentially that kid that shows up in your fourth grade classes and is gone by fifth grade because she's constantly moved around in a very transitory life. And it's hard to derive meaning as a kid when you're constantly moved around. And then there's the artist himself. This is a kid that hoards sleeping pills and shuns attention, but has the talent that will ultimately break the art world. It's in the artist that the other three friends find meaning, and they want to see him succeed where they know they cannot. And they want to see his painting, his art on the walls of the most famous museums. So let me tell you what you're going to get in the novel. You're going to get a suspenseful story. And when I describe the characters to you, you're like, okay, so it's a character study and, but is the story interesting? It is. It's suspenseful. We don't know what's going to happen to the friends. Do they live? Do they die? Do they just sink into obscurity? Do they take on the faults of their parents and just relive their parents' life? Are they able to achieve their hopes and dreams? And the great thing about Bachman is he's not just telling you a story about that and then telling you what happens to them. He's making it so you identify with them. So you actually care what happens to these characters. Not a single one of these characters, if they existed in the real world, would you think anything of as you passed on by them. And the truth in this novel, and in my opinion, there's more truth in this novel than any tome of philosophy, is that everyone is a person entitled to dignity. Read this novel and see if you don't look at other people differently. If you look at them now as more than a prop in that passes by in your life, as a little bit more than window dressing in the drama that is you. I think that's the truth that Bachman is giving us. And I think if we can reach that truth after reading this novel and while we're reading the novel, it'll make you a better person and enrich your life. And yeah, this novel has more than just friendship, right? It addresses issues of alienation, isolation, um, domestic violence, and those are really heady themes. And Bachman writes about them beautifully. Ultimately, I think this novel is about pure unconditional love, and I don't think it's sappy in any kind of way. The novel is robust. It's challenging. It's thought provoking. I think you need to have a big heart to truly understand what Bachman's doing here. And I'm not claiming to be that person myself, but I also think that even if you don't consider yourself one of these, quote unquote, big hearted people, I think that in reading this novel, you can become a little bit closer to that kind of person. For all the reasons I've mentioned, I'm going to give My Friends 4.5 stars out of 5. I think if you read this novel, it will enrich your soul and ennoble you. It'll cause you to be empathetic towards others. And I think we need a lot more in the world. So let the artists speak, because I think they have something to say. And Bachman in particular has something to say. And for that reason, I recommend this novel to you. Right about now, you'll see a little circle with me as a naval officer a long, long time ago. And if you click on that, you can subscribe, and I would love that. And we will move this channel forward so we can actually do some good by putting some money behind our shared hobby and helping other people to enjoy it as well. With that, have a great day and God bless.